Muscles not so flexible. No, not Stretch Armstrong. He is John Strongman. Welcome. Yes, we're 5 years ahead of our time, and after 12 years, the WWE drops Funaki after lots of loyal service. Fuck the WWE. That's what I have to say. Hello, this is Vandal Drummond, and my opinion counts for not much. And this is Alfredo Esparza, whose opinion probably counts a little more than mine. How are you tonight, Alfredo?
You know, that's the funniest thing that happened today. All those guys getting cut for whatever reason. You know, what was Funaki's role in the whole promotion the last couple of years?
I wasn't even aware he was with the promotion, but when I learned that he was still with the promotion and that he got cut, I was really pissed off.
Did you even know who Slam Master Jay was?
I have no clue.
I had to Google search him. I was like, who the hell is Slam Master Jay?
It's a great name, but I had no idea who he was.
It's Terry Gordy's son.
Oh.
Jesse or Ray Gordy or whatever you want to call him.
Boy, it shows you on what page I'm on these days.
Yeah, I was like, who is Slam Master Jay? And then, like, when I looked at it, I was like, oh, shit, I had no idea he was still there.
Oh, damn.
I hope with that stuff.
Either he was very, very much in the background, or I am getting very old, and one of these people just talking about how great wrestling was in the old days, which it was, and how much it sucks today.
Or maybe we should start the show with a rant on message boards, like every other podcast.
Yes, I think that would be very apropos, actually.
Have you heard every pod? I listened to Les Thatcher complain about the 3 or 4, I think it was 3 or 4 day message boards, and then I heard Brian Alvarez complain about it. Then I heard another guy complaining about another message board for some reason. Like,
that's how behind I am. I'm even behind on the podcast. I heard about Les Thatcher's rant.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's that same rant that Lance Storm used to like to do, like about how if you've never been in the ring, you don't have any right to talk about wrestling or whatever. You don't have, your opinion doesn't count. You know.
Well, your opinion still counts. I mean, if you're somebody who might be paying for the product, then yeah, your opinion counts. Although I do see where they're coming from. I mean, okay, yeah, I have wrestled, but if I was going to do this, like, list of my 100 favorite workers, I would base it from somebody who has not worked in years, was primarily an indie geek, and this is from my viewpoint. This is who I think is the coolest. I would not say this is the end-all, these are the greatest workers. You know, in fact, you're probably recognizing that I'm recalling one of Lance Storm's rants from a number of years ago.
Yeah, about the DVDR board, the message board? Yeah,
there's a message board where I think somebody posted who they thought the best workers were.
They do a top 5. They used to do a top 500. They stopped a couple of years ago.
Similar to the PWI?
Yeah, well, it was more work rate. It was basically just
gotcha.
So they and then I guess like towards the end of their list, they would always put Lance Storm towards the bottom. One of the last guys. Rob Van Dam. I think Rob Van Dam was one of the last guys a couple of times too.
Yeah, well, yeah, I understand Lance Storm's point in that yes, they haven't been in the ring and they don't understand what working is.
Uh-huh.
But if I was going to make a list, I don't think I would say these are the best workers. I would say these are the folks I dig the most. This is why I think they're cool. And yes, I would not be angry at somebody if they liked Sky Low Low
or do what I do,
Bret Hart.
Or do what I do where I repeat, it's my opinion.
Like, yeah, exactly.
My opinion.
And that said, I understand their ire at the message boards because I rarely go to message boards just because I just don't get the thrill. I mean, message boards just seem like, people, most of them seem like people who just want to go on childish rants and can do so, protected behind the veil of the Internet. And I'm not just talking about wrestling message boards. I'm talking message boards in general.
Yeah, I mean, every single message board, there's going to be that one person that's going to annoy you.
And speaking of top hundreds, I want to get a plug-in early for your Lucha World top 100.
Uh-huh.
Because there is some really cool artwork in those.
Yep.
As most people know who frequent LuchaWorld.com, Alfredo has his yearly top 100 luchadors.
It's still ongoing, too.
Still ongoing, yeah. That's the coolest part. It's fed piecemeal, 10 wrestlers at a time.
It's never going to end. By the time I finish, it's going to be like 2011.
Exactly, and John Strongman will be number 1.
Yeah, well, he's already on the list, though.
That's true.
Yeah.
I can still hope. I can still wish.
He'll make it by the next one.
But there's these great thumbnail sketches of each luchador that are just, I think, way, way cool.
Yeah, and the guy who drew him for me, he really wants me to get it done so he can actually talk about working the process and everything he did for the artwork. He wants to talk about it on his blog. In
fact, who is the cat that did the artwork?
This guy in Mexico named Kitties. That's his nickname, Kitties. He has Kitties, like KCIDIS. I guess it's.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I think that's how you pronounce it, Kitties. I call him by his name, Ernesto, just because it's easier for me because I've never gotten used to calling people by their nicknames, unless I don't know their real.
Yes, hence I'm always Kurt.
Yeah, you're Kurt.
Kurt Brown, the most forgettable name in the world.
Yeah. Well, he actually wants to actually just post like everything on his blog, like about how much fun he had doing the whole work, the project, and everything.
Oh, that would be very cool, actually.
Yeah. Actually, I wanted him to draw. I don't know if you remember this old magazine cover of the UWF on Pro Wrestling Illustrated, where all the wrestlers are fighting over a trophy.
I don't recall.
You don't remember? It's from
no, I don't. That sounds cool though.
From February 1987, where it's the Freebirds, One Man Gang, Dr. Death, Terry Gordy, and Terry Taylor, and they're all like pulling this. They're trying to win a trophy, so they're pulling the trophy away from each other.
I would love to.
So I was thinking I would get him to draw like all the ex-AAA wrestlers that are invading CMLL, and like.
Oh, that would be sweet. You should go for that.
Pulling Camonito, like in between all that. I always.
Oh man, what would it take to get him to draw a sketch of Vandal Drummond and Lucky Pierre?
Money.
Yeah. Okay. There we go.
That's all it takes. Money makes the world go round,
This is very true.
Yeah, he'll do it for money. If you want a sketch of Lucky Pierre or Physico Nuclear, he'll do it for money.
That would be bitchin' because I draw it myself, but I have no talent. That's the problem. I can hardly draw a straight line.
Yeah, if you want, I'll ask him how much he would charge.
I would be interested, definitely.
I said. Well, he charges in pesos, so it's going to look like it's going to be a lot, but it really isn't.
So when it says thousands of dollars, it's not so shocking.
Yeah, when you get my email back saying it's 1,500, don't get all holy shit. Are you
This man is a thief. I'll not pay this. It is an unjust.
Yeah, it's pesos, so it's probably like I guess I don't really know how much. So
when you mentioned the UWF sketch of the Freebirds and all, it suddenly was a catalyst for my memory running back to a sketch I'd actually love to find when John Tolis and Freddie Blassie had their famous cage match at the Coliseum.
Uh-huh.
There was I believe it was for the program, there was a sketch of all the wrestlers on the card fighting in a ring, including Blassie trouncing John Tolis. I'm going crazy trying to remember what the artist's name was. He was an artist for Mad Magazine,
uh-huh.
and he also sketched one of the Circle Jerks album covers. And I'm going to go crazy trying to remember what his name is. I'll remember at the end of the show. I can guarantee you that. Once we go off there, I'll say, oh, yeah, that was his name.
Yeah, when you call back, you'll be like, I remember it now. Can we start the show all over again? You can delete that show and we can redo it again.
That's right.
Yeah, I was thinking about asking him just to draw different moments in wrestling history, just have him draw them, and I thought, man, that's going to be
that would be sweet. Especially lucha history. Get some sketches of Black Shadow and Santo and...
Yeah. Well, I want to do a Hall of Fame and have him just sketch every single wrestler,
I think that'd be wicked cool. Yeah. Very wicked cool.
Have you been watching lucha on LA TV?
I've been a very bad boy, and I have watched nothing for several weeks.
When's the last time you watched AAA?
It's been over a month, I do believe.
You've actually watched it more recently than I have.
Really?
Yeah, I kind of gave up on it. I'll watch like half of the show, and then it's like, you know.
Well, last Friday I went for a 2-hour run, 2-hour-plus run, actually. And I've been filling my days with that kind of stuff, and I've got to get my priorities straight, I guess. But I'm becoming obsessed with this kind of stuff.
Well, I thought you were watching CMLL just because you mentioned that you had actually found it.
Yes, I DVR'd it. I have DVR'd it faithfully.
You just haven't watched it.
I just haven't watched it.
Well, you gotta watch the minis match with Mascarita Dorada.
Really?
It's really good.
Okay. And I have the next episode DVR'd.
Yeah, everything else kind of,
just kind of there.
Yeah, you know, they really don't. I don't know. It's just like the show. There's so many commercials when you watch it live, like, you know, in real time.
Yeah.
When you're watching the show in real time, it's like such a drag to watch that show.
So you really do have to DVR it so you can put it into Benny Hill speed and fast forward the commercials to the tune of Yakety Sax.
You don't get Teleformula, right?
I'm sorry?
You don't get that channel Teleformula?
No, we don't.
They have IWRG on that channel.
I know which one you're talking about because I was tempted to subscribe to it just because of that.
Yeah, oh my God, no, don't even bother with it.
Not worth it, not even for a laugh?
Well, you know, the show is great. But while the show could be great, the first thing, the show, it doesn't start at, it says it's supposed to start like at 2. It doesn't start at 2. It starts like 10 minutes after. And then, like, they'll edit it out. Like, they'll edit out, like it'll be a 3-fall match, and they'll edit the second fall out. Or they'll edit out the third fall.
Wow.
They'll just clip it to death. And then the commercial breaks out. There's a 7-minute commercial break at one point during that show.
So this is make you crazy type wrestling.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that channel's goal is to not have you like wrestling. I think that's why they air it. Like, they just want you to hate wrestling afterwards.
It's a bunch of soccer goons who are upset that football is being eclipsed by pro wrestling.
I don't know, but it's like
what Dr. Jerry Graham claimed the real reason that Vern Gagne's starring role as Mike Bullard in The Wrestler, the reason it didn't get national distribution. He said, because what would have happened is everybody would have realized how great wrestling is, and they would have stopped going to the movies. They would have all gone to wrestling. In a perfect world, that would be true, yes.
Oh, yeah. But you have heard about the ex-AAA wrestlers appearing in CMLL shows, right?
I've heard little hints about us. Do fill us in.
Well, 2 weeks ago in Puebla, towards the end, right at the end of the semi-main event, Alebrije with Cuije and the ex-Vipers all jumped into the ring and attacked all the CML technicos.
Sweet.
So they even had Cuije beat up Que Monito during that was part of the run-in.
That is way awesome.
Yeah. So if you check the most recent Wrasslin, they show the whole thing.
Very cool. In fact, I just downloaded that last night. So I have something fun to watch tonight.
Yeah, it's towards the end because the very first part is like different. Like I think they're talking about Nero Casas and all this other stuff. But then,
very cool. Another reason to turn on to CMLL. Now, we know the angle. Do we know the story behind the angle?
Well, you know, I think they came up with it like a week before that, because there was a show in Nuevo Laredo, or some place like that, where they had ex-AAA guys and CMLL guys, and I'm guessing that's where they probably came up with the idea of doing it. But that's something that nobody's really brought up. Because, you know, these guys talk. I mean, at some point, some power broker out of CML must have been there that said, hey, wouldn't that be cool to do this little...
Okay, the question I have, the CML question that is befuddling me. Mistico was gradually turning into the bossest heel I have seen in a long time. A great, great Rudo. And, of course, there were little teases where he would still wrestle as a Technico, or he declared that he was What did he declare that he wasn't a Rudo?
Well, he said he was universal.
He was universal.
A tweener.
And I mean, he's going like night and day, where one day he seems to be the bad Mistico, the next day he seems to be the angelic Mistico.
Yeah, he's just stick to being a Rudo.
He is a great. Yeah, I mean, he's a natural heel.
Yeah.
I love watching him as a heel. But it sounds like they're really teasing the storyline, and I guess that's not so unusual in lucha, where Rudo and Technico is portrayed as a style rather than the wrestler's overall personality, their overall being. But boy, I can't remember the last time I've seen somebody be what you would call like a switch hitter.
Well, you know, I really don't get what. Well, you know, CMLL, they don't really follow there's not a certain pattern that they follow, you know, to their booking. They just kind of go with whatever they feel like doing, you know. You know,
it's
like
funny.
They're doing that with Mistico, and then they're turning Hector Garza at the same time, you know. And Garza, I mean, you would think they would pick one or the other to turn, and they're undecided between the both of them. Although Garza's Rudo turn looks a little more like they're really going to go with that more than Mistico.
Fascinating. Well,
you know the thing I'm thinking? This is just something I'm thinking that I've been thinking. With all the ex-AAA guys showing up, I have a feeling that if Perro Del Mal doesn't do well, I have a feeling that they're probably going to, I think Perro Aguayo is probably going to return to CMLL at some point.
In fact, that's what I'm hoping for. I would love to see him back in CMLL.
Because I'm thinking if Garza's going Rudo, why not just have Perro come back and they have Perro Del Mal all over again?
That would be sweet. Oh, that could make the promotion. If it happened this year, it could make the promotion.
Yeah.
It's funny, when we're talking about somebody being a Rudo and a Technico night by night, I'll never forget in 1978, when La Belle territory in Los Angeles was, you know, still having some bright spots, but was a slowly sinking ship. They had an angle where Black Gordman wrestled as I can't remember if he wrestled as a heel in Los Angeles and a babyface in the town of San Bernardino. It was the strangest thing, though. Okay, I remember what it was now. He was a babyface in Los Angeles. Every time he'd appear at the Olympic, I think he was teaming with Plowboy Frazier at the time. Babyface tag team. I know that's an odd pairing, but such was the case. And Chavo Guerrero, just on TV, said, well, a lot of you fans might have heard that Black Gordman is a clean wrestler here in Los Angeles, but when you see him in San Bernardino, he wrestles dirty. And he explained that somebody, it might have been Goliath, I don't know, somebody won the contract of Black Gordman in San Bernardino only. And Chavo Guerrero used the switch hitter analogy, saying he's a switch hitter. He wrestles clean in L.A. and dirty in San Bernardino. And I remember just it making absolutely no sense, where it does make sense if you say there's a style called Rudo and this style called Technico.
Switch hitter nowadays would have been a whole new conclusion.
Oh, yeah. Orlando Jordan, here we come.
It would have been like, oh, what?
Or should I say, Orlando Jordan, here he comes.
Yeah, baseball analogies nowadays in wrestling don't really
work. A whole different ball game.
Yeah. I was going to ask you, have you been following Tim Lincecum?
As a matter of fact, I watched Tim Lincecum's versus the Dodgers on Saturday.
Oh, God.
Boy, did I pick the right day.
That was a beating, man.
That was, horrible. And so much of it was Tim Lincecum.
I know, jeez.
For those of you who didn't see it, he started out bunting. It looked like he intended to make a sacrificial bunt. Not only did the runner get in, but he made it to first base on that bunt. Then he proceeded to bat 2 more runs in that game, as well as pitch a fairly good game.
Yeah.
And he is the coolest. I enjoyed that game immensely. The other 2 games where he was not the primary player, the Giants got beaten. But boy, with Lincecum in there, they spanked the Dodgers. I think ended up being 9-0.
Yeah, 9-0. 6 scoreless innings. I bet you Dr. Leach is probably there's a tear rolling down his eye, down his cheek as he hears you talk about baseball.
I had to explain to people at work when I wore my Lincecum T-shirt. They said, "Wait, you're a Giants fan?" was what everybody was saying to me, and I said, "I am a Lincecum fan."
Not a Giants fan.
Right, exactly. They would point to my shirt, said Giants fan, and I would just spin around and show them the back of the shirt that said Lincecum.
Yeah, not
and said, "This guy's the coolest."
If he ever leaves the Giants, you'll be another Lincecum fan, some other team.
Exactly. Yes. Hey, switch hitter. I switch over to whichever team. Tim Lincecum.
Kurt, you're not a switch hitter, sir. Come on.
Nah.
Let me get some of our callers on. I think it's Dick.
No, it's what?
Is this the Dixie Demon?
I was going to say no. It's Gene Londos, the grunt and groan idol.
Which brings us to an announcement. Many people attempted the trivia question that we featured on Slammin Stand several weeks ago. That question was, which pro wrestler with a slightly altered name for the comic was a subject of a Tijuana Bible? We had so many guesses. We had some pretty good ones, some fairly good guesses. There's Gorgeous George, Black Shadow, I dug that one. Cavernario Galindo's still my favorite.
Yes, I agree.
Our good friend Ricky Ataki guessed Primo Carnera.
Wow.
That would actually be kind of interesting.
That would be interesting. And, I have to reread his email. He said something where he thought he heard about Carnera being featured in one of those. So, But a listener by the name of Keith Basso is the one who nailed the question. Keith Basso, who is mighty with the pen, quite the scrivener, actually researched this. He is actually not much of a wrestling fan.
How's he a listener if he's not a wrestling fan?
He likes our show.
Oh, cool.
He likes us. Isn't that bitchin'? We have somebody who listens. I think he likes wrestling okay, but he is not a rabid fan. But he did a lot of detective work. In fact, I got to salute him. He was not even aware of what a Tijuana Bible was. And he was a little shocked when he saw what one was. But he did find that.
You took down some of the stuff off your website. I noticed that.
I decided I would just leave the opening of the Tijuana Bible there and remove some of the more explicit scenes. I don't know. I might put them back up in the future, though.
And, have you been to your website and seen the ads you have on your website?
Yeah, they're finally getting to be some pretty cool ads.
No, you haven't seen some of your ads, huh?
Yeah, I saw the one about where you hear there's the gay wrestling ad.
Yeah, that one.
And there was one about some women catfighting where a woman barely had a top on, and I thought finally, okay, this is Google. These are the same assholes who last year I saw this big banner ad via Google on my blog urging people to vote yes on Proposition 8. That's to block gay marriage in California state. So I did a big blog posting say, I do not endorse this goddamn ad. So they're finally getting some appropriate advertising for my site.
Oh, we got another caller. Hold on, let me add him. Probably Dan. And if it's not Dan,
KNS.
I am so happy to hear that Kurt is coming out in favor of gay marriage and catfighting.
In fact, if there's some way we could work catfighting onto the ballot this November in the state of California, that would be the pinnacle of my career, of any career. How can we do this?
I'm surprised that's the one thing, when everybody puts together these, like, the Wrestlicious shows and whatever, I keep thinking, they keep messing up because really and truly, all they really need to do is to put together, quote-unquote, a catfighting league, where there's not all these girls go out there and they put their lives on their line to learn all these dangerous moves, and in most situations, guys are just happy with clothes being torn. That's all it really is.
In fact, maybe we should bring back Cattle International, Dan, but just have it be an apartment house wrestling league.
There you go.
Say apartment wrestling.
I say it in jest, but actually, I think it would work.
Yeah. Oh, I know it would. I mean, what you could do is you could have holiday-themed events like a catfight Christmas, that kind of stuff.
Hey,
nothing says Christmas more than a catfight around the Christmas tree.
I'm up for that.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll get
this by no means is any insult to any women wrestlers out there who work really hard and try to get it's just whenever guys get involved in promoting women's wrestling, in most cases, with the exception of things like Shimmer and whatever, it turns out to be crap. So
exactly, and it's like I said, it's not meant to insult the women wrestlers who strive hard to do a good job in the ring. It's a salutation to the women who are willing to wrestle in bikinis or naked or whatever.
Right.
It's just a salute to them.
Because I would say, and I also say that for my own safety, because much in the same way the guys from South Park are going to have to be careful about, being attacked by Muslims, I don't want to be jumped in the grocery store by straight lady wrestlers and catfighters. I really don't want that.
You don't?
No, because I'm going to get the hell kicked out of me. That's the reason why. It won't be pleasurable at all.
That's the greatest part. Are you kidding?
Well, you've always enjoyed that. That's not something that I enjoy as much.
Oh, man, but I bet you could get into it if you had enough of it for a while. I know some women who can pack a good punch.
Yeah, and I'll be single quite quickly after that, too. So.
Okay, so the first show we have is going to be at the Northridge Apartment Arms. We're going to open Mary Lou and Shari will wrestle. Then, let's see, Sophia. Who could we have Sophia wrestle?
Oh, I don't know. This is getting awfully inside.
Yeah,
now.
I don't think we should go that direction, Kurt.
No, we do not want to give away our booking secrets just
No,
yet.
you don't want to do. Don't expose the catfighting business. That's the whole idea. Can I plug something?
You certainly may, Dan.
I wanted to plug something because actually, much like Al Pacino and The Godfather, after being away for a long time, they're pulling me back in, and that is I am dusting off the suit and the jacket, and the commissioner is going to return to Millennium Pro Wrestling next month on May 29th. Millennium Pro Wrestling was a group about 10 years ago here in Southern California that I was commissioner for, one of the many groups that I was. But I enjoyed that one the most because I had a lot more creative input on it. And they put on some really good shows out here, and I know that Lucky Pierre appeared on some of them. But
they were kind enough to work me into one of their shows versus Dan Fabiano.
And they had people like Samoa Joe appeared on the shows, and the Messiah and Vampiro, and they were supposed to. And they were supposed to have this new kid named John Cena, but something happened and he couldn't make it. I don't know what it was, but
whatever happened.
But he was never heard from him ever again. But they put on some really good, solid shows. And actually, the funny thing about it is the reason why the group kind of went dormant for a while is not because of the normal reasons of the people that owned the building didn't want them there anymore or anything else like that. That is the guy Logan X, who was one of the wrestlers on it, and who, by the way, was always in the opening bout, never pushed himself, as champion or anything else. This guy had started out as a wrestler, and we had seen him around at age 17. And in his early 20s, he fulfilled a dream that he wanted to do. He became a cop. And after about 8 years of this, a couple guys were interested in doing a documentary about. Here was this guy who was 17, became a pro wrestler, wrestled for a couple years, and then became a cop. And what they did was they wanted to kind of put him back in the ring and shoot it as a documentary. So on May 29th at 7:30 at it's the San Fernando Park and Recreation Center out here in Southern California. There's going to be a show called Not Another Pointless Reboot. That's the name of the first show. And there's going to be a bunch of guys on it, a lot of really good guys from Southern California, Scorpio Sky.
There will be a wrestling legend involved.
Yes, and that's one of the big things also, is there's going to be an appearance by Roddy Piper. And it's a fundraiser for the San Fernando Police Department's Explorer Scout program. And Piper has very generously offered to come down and to make an appearance. And the main event is actually going to be Logan X coming out of retirement against his old arch enemy from long back. Scores must be settled, gentlemen. Scores must be settled. So he's going to be wrestling Cincinnati Red that evening. And it's going to be a fun evening. And it's only like $7 for kids and $10 for adults. And I'll talk about it a couple times before the show comes up. And I'll see if we can get somebody with the show to come on the show.
That would be wonderful.
The hard part is I need to find someone who's never heard the show before, so they'll come on it. If they've heard the show, they probably don't want to come on it. But no, and there'll be a lot of fun, and it's for a good cause. And I know that in all sense of disclosure that Mr. Brown will be working with me in the dressing room, and I will have on my little suit again and be out there saying, no, you can't do this. This match must go on, this kind of stuff. And actually, to tell you the truth, I'm kind of looking forward to it a little bit. I haven't done something like that for a long time, and it'll be kind of fun to get back into it.
Would also like to mention it will be the reemergence of our old friend Craze, who will be wrestling.
Craze. There's a lot of guys. Also, the Disco Machine, who's another guy who was a regular here in Southern California, has kind of been in retirement as much as a wrestler can possibly be in retirement. Foob Dog. Remember Foob Dog?
Oh, I love Foob Dog. Very nice guy.
He's going to be appearing on the show also.
In fact, his very first professional match was on Johnny Legend and Incredibly Strange Wrestling show. And the
amazing thing is he kept wrestling.
Exactly. Actually, I remember the match because it was a tag match involving myself and little Sergio, Frankie's friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm blanking on who the fourth it's Frankie. Frankie D.
There you go.
Yeah,
and there'll be a women's
Frankie D and I versus Foob Dog and Sergio. A very nice guy, Foob Dog.
Well, it's going to be a nice combination of some of the younger guys starting out and some of the old veterans from around here. Also, there will be an appearance by a young kid I've seen a couple of times, and he's hysterical, named Fanboy. Fanboy is a Star Wars, Star Trek aficionado. And it's going to be quite a kick in the head. So there's a Millennium Pro Wrestling site on Facebook, or you can go to MPW. That's Michael Paul Wrestling.com, and get all the information about it and see pictures. And there's some old video up there from some of the old shows, and you can see some of the guys when they were first starting out. So I just wanted to throw that out there for what it's worth, because...
In fact, I remember Logan as a kid starting out wrestling on those shows in, I believe it was Westminster, at the Boys Club.
Exactly.
And I remember Stefan and Ricky Ataki were both on those shows. Stefan was doing the Anarchy gimmick, and Logan gigged for the first time on one of those shows.
Really?
And he walked into the dressing room looking just proud as punch with blood trickling down his forehead. And as he walked by, Stefan had this really warm smile on his face, and he says, "It's so cute the first time they gig." And it wasn't a sardonic smile. He was very sincere. Like, he remembered the first time he gigged with Tim Talltree. And
yes, you never forget the first time you gig, the first time you get cheated on a payoff, the first time someone double-crosses you.
Or the first time you're told to hit the road.
Exactly. The first time you get chopped in the ring or have your trunks pulled down, all that kind of stuff.
That actually reminds me, speaking of Stefan DeLeon, that I was looking at, have any of you guys ever seen WrestlingMedia.ws?
I don't think I have.
I think I might have come across it once or twice. It sounds familiar.
It's this big database of all sorts of different wrestling CDs and cassettes and vinyl that's been released over the years, and a lot of them have samples, and there was a Foreign Object song on this release that Rhino did in the 80s, and there's a sample of it up on the site.
Oh, that's great.
Oh, for Stefan's group Foreign Object?
Yeah.
Oh, wow, so that must have been 95, 94 or after.
No, or is it a different foreign object then? Because this is from the 80s.
Either it's a different foreign object or they're very wrong on the date, because I started doing the gigs with them. I am far from a musician.
It's the foreign object. That's why.
That's why, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yes. But speaking of which, that's something I actually do want to start digging up, is some of those foreign object tapes that I believe our friend Johnny Legend has a lot of those.
Well, this was a Johnny Legend record, though. So, well, the name of the song is "Who Will Dispute the Genius of Lou Albano."
That's a different group, I think. That sounds like
it's a different group.
That's an early Johnny Legend thing, because Steffen's stuff and their foreign object tended to be a little more punkish than this stuff.
Okay.
I think this is one of those things that Johnny turned out in the mid '80s, about the time that wrestling started to get hot. He had all these different groups recording songs or whatever. It might have been one of the early albums.
Yeah, this is Wrestling Rocks, which is, it's mostly compiling stuff that already had been released in various forms, but along with some new Johnny Legend stuff. Like, it has Shell Shock Shannon and its Hollywood Manglers performing Wrestlers Just Want to Bust Heads.
Oh.
That's definitely a Johnny Legend.
Johnny, because Johnny's the king of alliteration. So Shell Shock Shannon is definitely Johnny. Yeah,
definitely one of his prouder moments. I guarantee. Well, every moment to him is his proudest moment. He still has a whole library full of stuff that he has yet to execute, and I'm certain if anybody ever gave him the arena and the money, he would be willing to do it. And well, let's hope it can happen. But Steffen's Foreign Object was a straight punk rock group where every member wore a wrestling mask, and they had songs like "You Ain't Nothing But Garbage." They did their own take on "Fuck the Police" that started off with the theme of the Barney Miller Show. And one of the most hysterical Foreign Object appearances, I wasn't there. I wish I was there for it, but Physico flew into San Francisco with Johnny to do an incredibly strange gig. I think it was just the night before Christmas Eve. And Steffen and one of the musicians, I think it was Spike Liberty, they caught a plane, and I believe it was Pat Howitt and the drummer were driving up. Well, those of you who live in Southern California know that when you're trying to go to Northern California during the winter, the grapevine often will get you snowed in. They got snowed in on Highway 5 and weren't able to make the gig. So, Foreign Object, being just the singer and the guitarist, this was during the heyday of MTV's Unplugged concert series. And so they did an evening called Foreign Object Unplugged, where they took away the punk guitar and just did acoustic guitar, and Steffen just sang in this very almost melancholy, almost folky voice, lyrics like "You ain't nothing but garbage." And I do believe I have that on tape. Anybody who never got to see Foreign Object really missed something. They did an entertaining set. I was lucky enough to have done the run-ins. What was the name of the song where I did the run-ins? I think it was called something like the Master Stroke or something like that. But I do an angle that would turn into a match, and I'm just glad I got to be part of Foreign Object. God bless you, Steffen. We didn't even plan on talking about him on this show, but really miss that guy.
Yeah, no, I actually remember another time when they were in Los Angeles and they were playing, and they said, "Hey, would you put the rep shirt on and just come up on stage at one point? I'll call you up and I'm going to sing a song. And all you got to do is just stand there." And basically, what he didn't tell me was the entire song was how inept referees were. So I basically stood there for 5 minutes while he berated me, and then said, "Don't you have to be someplace where you're exposing the business?" I remember that. So that was the finish of it. But it was hysterical because every once in a while, Steffen, who did just a killer imitation of Roddy Piper, of all people.
Oh, my God, he did, yes.
would just go off or whatever, and it was hard not to laugh. It really was hard not to laugh.
I swear, he was such a natural for any realm of entertainment.
Yeah.
It would have been almost an injustice if he had made it in WWE, because they would have saturated his character. They would have milked it down. He just had such a creative spirit. Great cartoonist, was a wonderful artist. And I wonder if he still has any drawings laying around anywhere, because I'd hate for all that stuff to get lost that he did. He never actually had anything published, but he was working under the tutelage of Gilbert Hernandez. And, I'd love to know what happened to some of his artwork.
Oh, that'd be a good question to ask Gil, because he's traveling all over the country right now with some of his stuff and getting all kinds of awards and accolades and doing signings and all that kind of stuff.
Well, we'll have to ask. Yeah, we'll have to put the bug in his ear.
Is he going to be? Do you know if he's? That's actually someone to be great to have him call in some evening, because he and his brother have such great memories of wrestling. It'll be fun to kind of have him talk about it one night.
Yeah, in fact, I remember when they did the piece in Love and Rockets on Adrian Adonis. Mm-hmm. They went back to recalling when he wrestled as Keith Franks in Los Angeles in 1977.
Yeah.
And I remember just being so impressed that they remembered in such great detail, who
none
he
of that
was.
stuff's on tape, is there?
I'm sorry?
There's none of that Keith Frank stuff is on tape, is it?
Boy, I don't think it is. I've always been looking for. That was around mid 73, 74. Am I right?
Actually, 77.
Right?
1977.
Is that late? Yeah, you're probably right. It is somewhere around the. No, you want? Yes, you're about right, because that's after the famous bicentennial rules thing they did out here. But
what?
But they did. That's what they put out a special set of rules where they were banning certain moves or whatever in an effort to try to get them over. But it was interesting because he comes in and he's just this typical white meat baby face, and he's so thin as opposed to where he wound up going. And what's even funnier about it is that he eventually turned into the adorable Adrian Adonis character, but he was gorgeous Keith Franks.
Yes,
and he
that's
did
right.
a heel turn, and he dyed his hair blonde, and it was almost like an early run of that character, about 10 years almost before. I wish there was. I mean, I don't know if there even. I very rarely even see photos. I have a couple photos still. There's a great one they did, similar to the old Gorgeous George thing when he turned, where they took him to a hairdresser, and it's him sitting in a chair.
I have that photo too. Let me guess, you got it from Eric Caden, right?
Of course, yeah.
So did I.
Yeah, because that's all the stuff that came out of the Jeff Walton collection.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, Eric Caden of Hollywood Book and Poster has a lot of great Los Angeles paraphernalia, and if you ever hit Hollywood Book and Poster in Los Angeles, he has the key to some really cool programs that he is more than willing to sell. So
yeah, he has a lot of the really good programs. I think a lot of people like you and I have cherry picked a lot of the stuff from the late '60s into the early '70s, but he has a lot of stuff from the end of the '70s into the end of the LaBelle era in the early '80s.
And Adonis was one of the few good things about the wrestling that year. I mean, that's when, despite Chavo and Roddy Piper feuding, I mean, Los Angeles was dying a horrendous death. Mm-hmm. And Adonis and also Terry Sawyer was quite a bright spot during that time. And he took off with the whole heel persona. I think the oldest stuff that exists that I know of Adrian Adonis was when he started his babyface run in Portland in 1979.
Yeah.
You can find it on YouTube.
It really is a shame that all that, we I know you and I have talked before, and we have hoped that maybe someone is lying and somewhere in a garage there are kinescopes or videotapes of these shows, because it was really, there were so many greats that came through here. I mean, I went to see some of Bobby Shane's last matches when he made a short trip here on the way to Japan, and that's somebody I hear, you'll hear the old-timers reference Bobby Shane a lot. He was one of the first guys to carry a crown to the ring and to be the king of wrestling. and was a good little light heavyweight actually, but was great at whipping up the crowd. And it's so sad, that a lot of this stuff and a lot of those guys from, like, say, the 50s and the early 60s until the early 80s when wrestling started picking up and being syndicated and going on to cable, a lot of that stuff is missing, and a lot of people won't get a chance to see a lot of that wrestling. Now, one thing that was really neat, I told you about this, Kurt, I don't know the name of the place, I'm not holding out, but there was a booth at Frank & Sons, which is this big comic book and collectible show they have out here in Southern California, and I was able to buy a 2-disc set of The Destroyer.
Really?
The original Destroyer. All the matches are from the 1970s.
In all Japan?
Yeah, all Japan, yeah. And it's everybody from the guys over there to him wrestling Mil Mascaras, and watch Mil sell.
They had some awesome matches together.
They did. They really did. And I don't know if it was just because it was a different time or if having met Dick Beyer from time to time, I would say that I would imagine you sold for him or else. But there's a bunch of those on there, and it's really interesting to see because you don't get a chance to see. And they also have the famous Destroyer Ricky Dozen match on there too,
which is an amazing match to watch because I know Ricky Dozen is probably the most popular wrestler in the history of Japan. I think didn't even Meltzer name him like the wrestler of the century? I think just because of the impact he had on Japan.
Yeah.
But, man, was he terrible to watch in the ring. Oh, my God. He blew all three Billy Goats Gruff and the Troll under the bridge. He blew. But
I think that's one of the things. Well, I think.
But that match with the Destroyer shows how talented the Destroyer was. The Destroyer not only salvaged that match, he made it a great match, and he made you, even if you had never seen Ricky Dozen before, get pissed off at a heel. He was a great heel.
Yeah, and it's always amazing to me that Ricky Dozen is the biggest name in Japanese wrestling, and he's Korean.
I know. I think there's a great irony there.
Yeah, there's a great irony there. But I also think, I will say this, and I don't want to be one of those guys that defends the old-timers. I think that in some situations, the way that wrestling used to be shot in those days, from long shots and really far back, I think a lot of wrestlers who were really good on occasion don't look that good because of the way the matches were shot. That's not to say I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying, in general, though, a lot of the stuff that was mat oriented or really, it's kind of like watching. It'd be like going to the Magic Castle and seeing a guy that does sleight of hand, and instead you go to a large arena and see him 20 rows back.
No, that's absolutely true. Another thing is, years ago I used to fixate so much on work rate, and I've gone full circle to where I'm more impressed by somebody like Bruno Sammartino, who for years could, just draw hordes of people into the arena.
Yeah.
But if you actually watch his matches, you see punches that miss. You're not looking at a worker here, but still, people would die for that guy.
Yeah.
If you tried to tell people in a New York bar that Lou Thesz was better than Bruno Sammartino, you better have your Nikes on and get ready to run.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Now you've insulted Ricky Dozen and Bruno Sammartino. Are there any other greats you would like to bring up now and destroy?
Well, it might be an insult, but it's actually a salute because I am more impressed by somebody who can get over by whatever means.
When I first started wrestling, watching wrestling. It was on the East Coast, and it was the tail end of the original Bruno Sammartino reign, prior to losing it to Ivan Koloff. Then Koloff dropped it to Morales. And by the way, no offense to Pedro Morales, watch some Bruno Sammartino matches and watch Pedro Morales matches afterwards, and Sammartino will look like Lou Thesz, because it's really bad stuff. But the thing was that with Sammartino and actually with Morales, it was a lot of punch, kick, because the big monster heels they had would beat these guys up, beat them up, and then they would come back and they would do, had to come back and do all the punching and the kicking, and that's basically how at that point they liked. Actually, one of the most scientific wrestlers up into to the point when later on that held the belt was Billy Graham. And because Billy Graham was doing stuff that the other guys weren't even doing. If you look at, Koloff, if you look at Stan Stasiak and all those guys, they were all brawlers.
Yeah, that's true.
There wasn't a lot of finesse with any of these guys.
Koloff was a hell of a worker, though.
Koloff was a hell of a worker, and I mean, out of all those, I will give him that also, because I saw him when he was really heavy, and then he got wise as he got a little bit older, dropped some of the weight, and changed the way he worked, and you knew this guy knew what he was doing. But the thing was, if you watch all those really old WWF matches, finesse is not something that was needed. I mean, they just wanted someone to punch and kick, and since they did so much with the Italians and the Puerto Ricans and whatever area they were in, they would try to draw from that. Their crowds were always so heated up. It was amazing to look at the heat in those crowds.
Yeah, and the reason I say I came full circle is I didn't originally start watching wrestling for the finesse. I was a little kid, and I was there to see the good guys trounce the bad guys. I was there to see the drama. And as great a worker, my favorite wrestler when I was a little kid was Raul Mata. And even though I knew athletically he was heads and heels above a lot of the other Los Angeles workers, that's not what did it. It was his fiery babyface comebacks where after being wronged by the heel, he would just look like so angry and upset and coming back on them. Years later, I was watching people like Dynamite Kid, and I wanted to see all this athleticism. But then when you see the cost it is to the wrestlers and their lives and their bodies, I'd much rather see somebody who could clamp a headlock on and somehow win the crowd over with just a headlock than I would seeing, a double shooting star press. I love to see who can get over, period.
Well, when I first started watching wrestling, one of my favorite wrestlers was Chief Chase Strongbow, who basically would go out, would get beat up, and then he would do the war dance and do a bunch of chops and then pin the guy. Or the sleeper hold. That was the end of it.
And the look on the other wrestler's face.
That's all he had to do. That's all he had to do because he was so over with the crowd.
You knew that was it when he did the war dance, and it was just as priceless seeing the poor jobber's face when he started doing the war dance, like, uh-oh, I went too far.
Yeah. The WWF back at that time had some really bad enhancement guys. Really.
Yes,
there was some really... in fact, one of them just passed away this year, Tony Nero, who played the Black Demon.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, he did pass away a little while ago, I heard. And, he was one of those guys who used to wrestle in Madison Square Garden. When they would actually go out, they would take him out on tour. But at that time, prior to the ruling that you could have a masked wrestler in Madison Square Garden, he and El Olympico used to wrestle, and they wear those little baiting caps. It was like a little black...
Yes, I've seen those photos.
Except the whole face thing was cut out, which was always... And I always loved about the Black Demon was he was the Black Demon, but he had his initials TN on his boots.
Like when Viano, number 4, wrestled as Antonio Pena, and he had the 4 on his trunks in WCW.
Yeah, and actually a guy who became a really well-known wrestler in Los Angeles, Pork Chop Cash, also. Got his start as Al Nelson. He wrestled a lot of job matches as Al Nelson when he first started out. Of course, Johnny Roz became, as you were saying, Java Rook at one point. And in fact, Johnny Roz is on the tape, on the Destroyer tape.
Is he really?
In a tag team match. He's in a tag team match against Baba. I forgot who his partner was. Against Baba and Destroyer.
Now, there was one of the more talented jobbers.
Yeah, no, he was excellent.
How would Johnny Rods have gotten booked into All Japan, though?
I think it was the other one.
IWE?
Well, it might have been... Yeah, I think it was... Yeah, it was really...
Well, because the thing, though, wasn't Vince always with New Japan? Or would this be before Vince started working with New Japan?
It might be...
I've seen that match, I think.
My history blows.
Yeah, have you seen that match?
Yeah,
that could be, again, that might also be a time... I think I remember hearing something about Madison Square Garden tours, but... I think that might be one of those times.
Actually, I remember Jack Armstrong toured All Japan, and I believe he got it through Vince. This was like early 70s, like 71 or 72.
Well, yeah. Well, Inoki didn't get start working with the WWF till at least probably 75, right?
That sounds right.
It sounds about right, yeah.
Like whenever Superstar Graham first worked for New Japan, somewhere around that.
Yeah.
Well, actually, wait. Well, Inoki, though, was booking through... Before that, well, first he used Nick Goulis's guys, then he bought Cleveland, right?
Mm-hmm.
And used the guys, I guess, who were working there. And then, I guess, after he shut down the Cleveland office is when he started working with Vince.
Yeah.
The names Antonio Inoki and Nick Goulis in the same sentence sound really funny.
It's very scary.
Did George Goulis ever go to Japan?
He might have visited there once or twice.
You're looking for
Troyer and Jumbo Tsuruta against Johnny Rods and Kevin Sullivan.
Yeah, that's
I got
that wrong, yeah.
In 74. Oh, yeah, right, because Gorilla Monsoon worked All Japan then, right?
Yeah.
It was early All Japan, I think.
Right, so that's 70.
Yeah, you're right.
74, so I guess 75, 76.
Because I remember when I was looking for the match list for that, the guy who actually had the original match listings, had some other guy named instead of Johnny Rods. He had some other jobber.
Is this available on slambandjam.com?
He oftentimes Johnny Rods was often confused with Jose Estrada, who worked at the same time.
That's right, Jose the Jet Estrada.
Mm-hmm. I think Niall was the one who wrote the match listings for that, and I was like, what is... Because he always gets the U.S. guys wrong.
So this is available on slambamjam.com, Alfredo?
I think so.
That's where I just found it.
Is that where you found it?
Excellent. So people listening, Slam Bam Jam rocks.
You know, if I could find... there was an enhancement guy in the WWF called Cowboy Hondo.
I remember the name.
Yeah, and if I could find a match of him, I don't think this guy ever had an offensive move in his life. Because that guy, he was already kind of like he looked like a real poor man's Dory Funk. And his name was Cowboy Hondo, and it was even as a kid, he was like, when they say his opponent is Cowboy Hondo, and I would go, oh God, this is going to be over quick.
Oh, time to get a Coke from the fridge.
Yeah, exactly.
One of my holy...
I'm sorry, go ahead, Dix.
One of my holy grails is something I found out about, I forget who brought it up a few years ago, that in New York at some point in the 70s, there was, and I guess it wasn't an outlaw group because they used WWF job guys, but it was like a Hispanic targeted small promotion in the New York area.
Yes, Dr. Jerry Graham worked for them.
That had TV on Channel 41 called Ringside 41. And apparently, like, Frank Williams worked as one of the top guys, and he would come to the ring on a burro.
I would love to see that. I remember you mentioning that, and that would be a holy grail find. Was that the group that featured, like, Jack Veneno and John Cotto?
I have no idea.
Because there was a Puerto Rican group, and I can't remember what it was called, but they ran for a long time. A lot of the smart marks in New York suspected it was a front for something because they were always flying in wrestlers from Puerto Rico, like Jack Veneno, John. Who's another one? I can't remember the other wrestler, but they had a mummy that looked like the Michelin Man. And Dr. Jerry Graham worked on more than several of their shows. I think he was a semi-regular. Somewhere there's a great photo of the Doc with the mummy, sharing a cigar with the mummy. But yeah, those were very popular. And in fact, there were a number of indie groups that would use WWF enhancement talent as their main roster. And they actually had a fairly loyal following, not in the thousands or anything, but I heard that you'd see a lot of the same people at all those shows. The Frankie Williams, the one I never got to see, like Dan, you were talking about Hondo as being the worst of all time. The one that all the fans in the late 70s touted as being the absolute worst jobber they ever saw was a guy named Pinky Larson.
Okay.
And I think the only time he didn't job was he got to wrestle Frankie Williams to a 20-minute draw, and somebody said that Frankie Williams wrestled him to the draw because it was his birthday.
Could he possibly be worse than Spaceman Frank Hickey?
No, Spaceman Frank Hickey was awesome. I never saw him, but he was awesome.
I saw him.
Okay.
I saw him at the end of his career on TV. He was maybe in his 50s, looked like Fred Mertz from I Love Lucy, and he was dressed head to toe in a spaceman costume with a cape.
I love it. Okay, I'd put him over just for that. Just for that. He would have been feuding with Baron Miguel Cicluna for that belt for years.
Well, I was going to say I'd be curious to see Kurt fantasy book a Yolanka Frank Hickey feud.
Oh, dude, I would work on trying to resurrect the dead if I thought that could be possible. That would be bitchin'. Spaceman Frank Hickey versus Yolanka the Spaceman and his magic pacifying gun. That would be so cool. Oh, man.
You should do it, Kurt. Also, by the way, Kurt, with that picture of Dr. Jerry Graham, did the doctor ever grab the mummy and throw him over his shoulder and make a run for it?
With the help of Abdul the Butcher over the Canadian border. Oh, Lord.
I don't know that part of the story.
Oh, man. Pinky Larson, there was actually really funny Pinky Larson to show you that not only was he a horrible worker, he was not the brightest lad in the world. Many people have heard of the fan known as Captain Lenny in New York City, who had a wrestling hotline and for several years published the amazing Captain Lenny's Wrestling Journal, which was 30 pages of results, and more results. And I think there were like 5 results on each page. So when you got 30 pages, you got 30 pages of badly Xeroxed results with wrestlers' names misspelled. But Lenny was a character. And I guess Pinky Larson actually lent Lenny some money. And Lenny was trying
Wait a minute, a wrestler lent somebody some money?
Yeah, that shocked me, too. Usually a wrestler is trying to scam money off somebody. But Lenny was always ditching him and paying up, and finally Pinky Larson found him, in a bar or something, and grabbed Lenny, by the neck and said, "You better pay up." And Lenny's response was something like, I can place a citizen's arrest on you under the Hands Act. It is the Hands Act that says that you cannot lay your hands upon me. And apparently Larson looked at him for a few seconds and then let him go, worried that might actually be a legitimate law that Lenny, could utilize. So the worst jobber in the world, and possibly next to Captain Scorpio, the least intelligent wrestler.
Well, I'd be curious to see the one match I think it was just one match that John Arezzi had as a WWF job guy.
Against Dusty Rhodes.
I remember reading about that. I would love to see that.
I know there is a tape of that floating around.
I know. Didn't they put him in a singles match or a tag match, and then didn't they put him in a handicap match after that because he was so bad?
I don't know. I just know the match with Dusty. I just know about the match with Dusty.
Yeah, I remember. In fact, I remember reading the story about it in Ring Wrestling Magazine. Where they said,
I do too.
And they just kind of portrayed it as that was his first venture into wrestling. But you didn't. I think he later told the non-kayfabe story where he talked about how bad he actually was. But
I remember seeing pictures too. There were pictures in ring wrestling, and he looked awful even then.
Yes, he did, and I think there was even a picture of Dusty giving him the bionic elbow, which I heard was Dusty gave him a shoot bionic elbow.
I'm sure he did.
That's illegal in MMA.
Dusty, pioneer.
Oh, it is.
Yeah, there you. It is. Well, I would give anything to see somebody do the Dusty elbow in an MMA match. I would give anything.
Oh, that would be sweet. And if they called it the bionic elbow.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and they have to wear an elbow pad when delivering it.
Yeah, Exactly.
That would be a must. Well, talking about things that, I guess where you question the legality of everything, what is everybody's take on the recent rant on Vince Russo via an email to Terry Taylor by the one, the only Jim Cornette?
Well, I'd like to hear what Fredo thinks first.
Me?
We all target Fredo first.
I was just shocked about it. That's pretty much. I mean, it's not that. At first, I was shocked that he would actually post it on his website. But then, the more you listen to Jim Cornette, his interviews and all that, kind of seems to be a common theme in his life, where he wishes death on various people for some reason. So. And
I would say if he just wished death on people, he would stay out of trouble. But here's the paragraph where it really, that really spelled trouble for him is when he writes to Terry Taylor. I will say it because I am trying to quell the burning in my heart. I hate Vince Russo. I despise Vince Russo. I want Vince Russo to die. If I could figure out a way to murder him without going to prison, I would consider it the greatest accomplishment of my life.
The one thing I always wonder about Jim Cornette is, if he's so obsessed with Vince Russo, I mean, that's a little over the top, You got to move away from all that stuff.
Exactly. He's got a place in ROH, and
but see, I think he does it because he wants people to he wants to be in the media, he wants to be talked about. Whereas, if it was somebody, if I hated Vince Russo, the way he does, I wouldn't talk about it. I pretty much just, I'd move on with my life,
Same here. I mean, it sounds like he's having a lot more enjoyment being involved with Ring of Honor than he ever did in TNA.
Yeah, but I think he's using that to get people to show up and buy his gimmicks and all this stuff, buy his book and all that, his DVDs, and then, I'm sure people are probably, hey, what do you think of Vince Russo? I think he's a piece of shit and all this other stuff. So they start laughing. They have a little memory.
Yeah. Well, I do have to admit I'm marking for it a bit myself. I mean, when I think back on that great promo he cut on Joey Styles, I am still kicking myself for not having bought the book.
Yeah.
You still haven't bought the book?
I still have not bought the book. I've dragged my heels on a lot of things.
Oh, man.
I bought that in the DVD.
Oh, the DVD.
Cool.
You have to get both. The DVD is great. He just put out a new DVD. I just went to his website. The Jim Cornette, the Rookie Year.
Oh.
4 DVDs.
Oh, the Rookie, the first year he was in Memphis?
Yeah.
I wonder if it has the whole angle of how he became a manager, because that was one of the greatest.
Sure.
Oh, it is one of the greatest managerial debuts I have ever seen.
Oh,
the way they set it up.
Stuff.
As him being the former wrestling photographer whose mother was financing his new endeavor, it was just so beautifully put together. He was great. Lawler and Dundee were great.
And Lance Russell carrying him through his first promo.
Yes, Lance Russell. Never forget Lance Russell. That was just...
Oh, now, come on now, Jimmy.
Yeah. You've
been out here, Jenny. Come on.
I was listening to this match with Lance Russell was calling a match, and they did a move that he didn't know what it was called, and he came up with the easiest way to just I'm sure there's some really creative name for that move, which we don't know, and it just came off as something so normal, that's the way you should, if you don't know shit, that's the way you should actually come up with it, admit it, you don't know it.
Admit it in that Lance Russell voice that sounds so homey and humble. It's
where it's hey, I would probably defend it, if somebody in the message board was hey, I can't believe he doesn't know that move. So maybe he's got better things going on in his life. With him about all
I like that explanation, Fredo. I love that explanation.
It just ends up being this whole rant about how he's got other things going on.
It's so much better than I remember when Rock Hunter was a TV commentator for some Georgia indie promotion, or one of the wrestlers does a Russian leg sweep, and Rock Hunter says, back in my day, they called that a Russian leg sweep, and today they call it something else.
I mean, if you don't know it, don't cover it up. Just that.
Yeah, exactly. Just say I don't know.
There's some guys who will be like, well, we'll have to find out We'll have to find out about that move at a later time. Asking whoever they know. And it's like they're not going to ask or look it up. Why worry about it? Just move on.
Yeah, exactly.
And I just thought that was the simplest thing to do, like they're calling a match. But I thought that was great.
I've heard this analogy used so often with great singers, but it's true. Lance Russell could read the phone book, and you could just sit there and relax and just drink in his voice.
Oh yeah.
One of my favorite commentators ever.
Maybe
I tell you.
They should ask him what he thinks of Jim Cornette's rant.
Well, I gotta tell you.
I doubt it could top the answer he gave me about Jerry Lawler's book, which is one of the all-time great things. Do you remember what he said?
I heard your interview and I loved it, but I don't remember that.
He was like, I gotta tell you, David, it sounded like he was searching for female companionship.
Oh, man.
Well, Vix, what's your opinion on the Cornette thing? You didn't say. You let Fredo go first.
Well, I'd like to hear Dan's opinion.
Agree with whatever you say, Dan.
No, I don't know.
That's the way that I talk when I drive. I wish death upon everyone. And my wife gets mad at me because, she says wishing flaming death on people is not a good thing. So now I am forced in her presence to wish painful diarrhea on them, things like that. But the thing is, and this is by no means an excuse, because I think that you got to always be careful, especially these days, on what you say. I mean, it's in Japan you can go through the crowd and punch people in the face, and no one will do anything. But here in America, we'll sue and arrest people for every little thing. Remind me to come back to my favorite being punched in the face in Japan story in a minute. But but I think that the guy has been around wrestling so much that cutting a promo that goes like that is just almost second nature for him. And while I understand his passion, there's a lot of passion there, and Jim Cornette feels that very strongly, I do believe you got to be careful about what you put out in print or whatever. I mean, I doubt very much that if it became something really legal, that pro wrestling has such a wonderful reputation that if you took it to court, that I would think in most cases they would. It's kind of like when we did the wrestling show out here and a big riot broke out, and I was the referee, and the cops, the people involved got so scared they thought it was real, and they called the cops. And the cops pulled up, and they said, "What's going on here?" And I said, "It's wrestling." And they said, "Oh, okay, thanks," and they drove away.
And Terry Funk, who the person said instigated the riot, when the police came up, he was signing autographs for handicapped children.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, that's what I kind of think. I mean, on one hand, I understand it. The old timer in me understands it, but also the common sense part of me says it probably wasn't a good idea.
Yeah.
And especially when you write letters to a friend in the business, you got to really know which friend can read a letter like that and keep it to themselves, because, for lack of a better word, I think there are so many snitches. That's not the right word to use, but like Dan, I could write something to you and know it would be secret, but there's not that many people I would do that with.
And Terry Taylor had a reputation as being someone who you would not want to do that with.
Oh, really? Yeah. Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the thing about it. It's like, it's kind of like, to him, he's the wrong person to ask to keep a secret.
So either Jim Cornette wanted this to come out and be controversial, or he is just not very wise in communicating with his friends.
Or both.
True. Yes.
That was a really long email too.
That was.
I mean, I've gotten emails from friends, but if you write an email that long to me, I'm probably not going to read half of it. I'm just saying.
Well, Terry Taylor has nothing else to do.
Of course, he works for TNA. Is that?
Yeah, exactly.
Vince Russo's doing everything for him.
Okay, Bix, you run out of people. Now it's your turn.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much agree. I mean, I understand where he's coming from in the sense that he really feels that Vince Russo had a negative effect on his livelihood and the livelihood of a lot of his friends.
Mm-hmm.
He should not have said what he did, and he really needs to control his anger, but I understand where he's coming from, at least in terms of his anger.
Yeah. It's also, I guess, when I look at it, I probably would be a little more horrified if it wasn't Russo. And that's mainly because I was in the bookstore, and his book was actually his new book, Rope Opera, which is a title he's been trying to put on something for 10, 15 years
now. Yeah, remember the sitcom.
The sitcom, whatever. And I took a look. I got to tell you, I'm a big mark when it comes to wrestling books. I figure even the worst book might have 3 or 4 paragraphs of something that's really good to have, I looked through this book, and I swear to God, I said to my wife, I wouldn't buy this book if someone threw it at me in the window of my car as I drove away. It was so bad.
Wow. Now, when I think about hearing about the worst wrestling book, the first thing I want to say, how does it compare to the Larry Zbyszko book? Even worse?
Oh, actually, you know what? The Larry Zbyszko book is charming and a charming little antique. Okay.
Send that quote to Larry Zbyszko, because that's about the only positive thing anybody's ever said about that.
Exactly. Well, I hear when Larry Zbyszko was doing the autograph session at the show back in January, that someone would come up to sign an autograph, and he would jump out of the ring and walk away for 10 minutes before he would sign it. No, but no, I know the book is. But you know what? When I read that book, the portion in there where he talked about how Bruno taught him how not to be screwed over by the promoters, and how one time he asked for a certain payout, like this in so many cents, and Gorilla Monsoon brought it to him and stacked it all in front of him down to the very penny and was laughing about it. That kind of. I remember that, and for me, that story alone was worth the book. That was a nice little story. Fine. This Russo book, I have never heard anyone. The man is a born-again Christian. He takes no responsibility for anything he's done. Nothing he did was wrong. All the mean wrestlers were bad to him, and they screwed him over. And he takes his children, and and he apologizes and cries about how they missed so much because he was in professional wrestling. And then he turns around and goes back into professional wrestling. So I will say this here. I will say this. The book can be wherever you want to, but Vince Russo, you're a horrible father. You're a horrible, horrible father. It's to be hypocritical that way. And that's the same thing he did in his first book. He would sit there and say, and then he would list all these ways they made fun of Jim Ross. And then he would say, but I'm a Christian now, so I don't do that. But I'm going to say this. I've said this probably at least a dozen times before, but I'm going to say it again. To all you aging wrestlers out there who are going to write a book and talk about how born again you are, one, don't think we buy it. Don't think we buy it for a minute. Two, it's old. Born again wrestlers are old. They're passé. Join the Hare Krishnas and write a book about that. A Southern wrestler who sees the light and embraces Lord Krishna, I would buy that book in a heartbeat, no matter how. I want to see one. I want to see one who's an actual Satan worshiper. That would be great. Not just the Kevin Sullivan one, but like to sit there and say, my career wasn't going really well, and then I sacrificed a chicken one night to Satan, and the next day I got a push. I want to see that. Never mind, it was a bucket of fried chicken, but still. Yeah, exactly. But the type of quick story I wanted to say before, this is a great story. One time, and this involves the great Dr.
story about you getting punched in the face?
No, not me getting punched in the face, but in Japan, it's on a great video. It's the Doc and Terry Gordy are coming to the ring, and as the Doc goes past this fan in the front row, the fan leans over and slaps him really hard on the back, and the guy who's with the guy starts laughing, and Doc turns around and punches the guy who's laughing, who didn't do it, right in the face. Right in the face.
Oh, no.
I laughed so hard. I think I watched that more than I did the match. I ran it back, And then, of course, in any good, if any good thing, his best friend who actually did it started laughing at his friend who was now laying on the ground.
Oh, Lord.
Wow.
I thought it was going to be a story about you getting punched in the face in Japan.
Yeah, I'm disappointed.
No, I haven't been. I haven't been punched in the face in Japan. I've been kicked in Little Tokyo. That's about as close as it can be.
Shall we put a PayPal account up where we'll pay for Dan Sharon to take over?
Send this man in Japan to be punched in the face. Yeah,
that'd be great.
That's going to be our donation.
Exactly. We'll sell it on video.
Yeah.
Kurt, I may not have been paying attention earlier, but did you actually reveal who the Tijuana Bible was about?
I think I told
about it, and you didn't say it, did you?
You're right. I told who the winner was. The winner, Keith Basso, but I don't think we actually said who the subject of that Tijuana Bible was.
Because we talked about maybe Primo Carnera, which I thought was interesting. Is it Bruno?
No.
No, way before Bruno's time. It was the Golden
Leone? The who?
Jim Londos.
Jimmy
Londos. Yes,
that's how they spelled it in the Tijuana Bible.
J-E-E-M.
Jim Londos. And
God.
It makes me
if you read the old clippings from that day, they say the Greek fans used to go and they would scream for Jimmy. That's what they always said. So.
And that humor was not lost on whoever wrote this Tijuana Bible. And it makes me think of Dr. Jerry Graham talking about the famous shoot that Strangler Lewis and Jim Londos supposedly had in a hotel room. Apparently, a couple of...
Are you sure that was a shoot?
Yeah, well, it might have been a different kind of shoot. Maybe it was...
I was going to say, did Jim Londos fart during this one, too?
Maybe it was the inspiration for the Tijuana Bible. Maybe there's a lot more literary value to this Tijuana Bible than we actually realize. Well, but I'd love to have Doc tell the story to people because apparently what happened was some promoters, got them into a hotel room and I guess got them drinking a little and got them in each other's faces and they decided to have a shoot right there. And I guess Jim Londo says, I'll kick your ass so fast, I could put a butterfly on my back, beat you in a shoot, and you'll never so much as touch that butterfly. And Lewis's response was, I'll take that butterfly, put it on the end of my dick, and ram it up your Greek ass. And then Doc would stare at you and say, that's reality, man.
I thought you were going to say that Lewis took the butterfly and put it in a headlock.
And he was still stiff.
Yeah, exactly.
And according to legend, apparently neither of them could take the other out. Who knows? But, wait, what am I saying? Dr. Jerry Graham never told a lie.
I was going to say, I hope that story is true, but I don't know. It sounds like the doc had a lot of practice telling it.
The thing that makes me happiest is Tom Burke was interviewing the doc on camera at Cauliflower Alley about 15 years back, and I was so jazzed that I was able to do a run-in and get Doc to tell that story. I thought it would have been a shame if Doc had passed without telling that story. And on Carl Stern's recent show, he talked about Great Gama's supposed glory.
He talked about video games, too.
No, it was all a shoot. Dr. Jerry Graham told me so. Dr. Jerry Graham told me that when he faced Stanislav Sabisco, that Great Gama screamed, Allah, 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 and then hit Stanislav so hard on the top of his head that it drove him knee-deep in the mud. And Doc did not lie. So there, Carl Stern, there are all you naysayers. There are all you people who say that Great Gama wasn't the greatest. Dr. Jerry Graham told me so.
Are you sure the doc didn't get drunk and see an R Gang short? That's what it sounds like to me.
Yeah, well, that was my thing. I think I saw it in a Flintstones cartoon once.
Yeah. But then, they're blowing up wrestlers on, and all that's left behind are the shoes, so why not?
That somehow reminds me of my favorite blatantly false wrestler story.
Which is that?
John Nord has this story he tells on shoot interviews where he says that he's in the locker room in an AWA show, and he sees Dusty Rhodes and Andre and other bigger guys rolling up toilet paper and then sticking it between their butt cheeks and before they put on their trunks. Because they need to prevent chafing and stuff. And then he calls it a muffler. And he's like, Dusty, and Dusty asks him, "Hey, John, you gonna put your muffler in, baby?" And he's all disgusted. So he says, so his story is that he's wrestling Dusty Rhodes, and that it's like Dusty calls for him to do a pile driver, in order to do a pile driver. He can't get him up. And so he pulls him by the trunks, sort of the way that Mick Foley did pile drivers.
Oh, yeah.
And then his muffler falls out. And then he says that Vern Gagne is watching from the curtain and cringing, and that a fan yells out, "Hey, your tampon fell out, you fucking faggot." Which is obviously not true, since I don't really know when he would have wrestled Dusty Rhodes, but funny story.
Exactly.
Yeah, I don't think Dusty was around that time, was he?
Yeah. God bless wrestlers' imaginations.
I tell you, they always, boy,
why they don't turn into writers of fiction instead of just saying these on shoot interviews? I mean, I think there's a market out there. Maybe it's time to revive the Tijuana Bibles, boys. So we'll have to have more.
That's a real good idea now.
Could write one about Dusty Rhodes and his muffler.
Exactly. I don't know what I don't know, call them San Fernando Valley Bibles or something.
Why don't you just call them pending litigation Bibles? Because that's what it would be these days.
I like that better.
Yeah,
actually,
exactly.
That's that. Oh, bingo, Dan. You said it. Pending litigation Bibles.
Yeah.
Well, actually, wait. When you think about it, doesn't someplace like that, wouldn't Bangkok have the reputation that Tijuana used to have?
Bangkok Bibles. That sounds
Bangkok Bibles is great.
That sounds delightfully kinky.
Yeah, and it has the alliteration and everything. Yeah,
that's right. You could start with the 6 wrestlers the WWE released today.
Okay, so our first apartment house wrestling pay-per-view will be called Bangkok Bible Bang #1.
Right. And it'll be Mickie James versus Katie Lee, right? Is that the...
Yeah.
Well, Mickie James is available now, but no, I say we go with the classics.
Now wait, though, since it's apartment wrestling, they only have first names, right?
Oh, that's right. Just be Mickey.
Oh, that's right.
Well, they have to have names these names that are like Fatima, Dakota,
Serena,
Paris.
Solana.
Oh, that's real. Hang on.
LaShawn and Dawn.
Lindsay. Yeah.
Well, in fact, on that, on the Theo Everett coffee table book, that is half old Los Angeles wrestling photos and half apartment house wrestling photos. One of the apartment house wrestling women is the former porn star Sika, which I assume is before her porn star days, probably.
Or the beginning of, either one.
Yes.
It's before she married the guy, Richard Mulligan, who was on Soap and Empty Nest.
What?
She was married to him for a while.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, trip out. Really?
Yeah. Yeah.
Richard
oh, my
Mulligan?
God, I never knew that.
Richard Mulligan married
a the adult portion of Slammin Stand now.
What's that?
This is the adult portion of Slammin.
That's right. This is the classic adult porn version.
This is Slammin Stand After Dark is what it is.
Slammin Stand After Dark.
That's right. So maybe someday I will write the autobiography of the wrestler turned Krishna conscious.
Well, Kurt, why don't you talk about or write about the porno film you were in?
Yeah.
And we're not joking.
The original
you were in a
title
porno film.
was Sex Mex, and it was a Johnny Legend production and his friend Toby Dammit. It was re-released. Yeah, Toby Dammit.
Dammit?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, and you can actually pick this up on Amazon.com, believe it or not.
So
I would buy a bottle of Purell at the same time if I were you, though. Man, I'm still trying to get the sight of Kurt in a mask and a Speedo out of my head. Oh,
don't you worry. I do not perform on this flick. I do a walk-off.
Kurt, you just disappointed all our listeners.
I know. Well, hey, maybe if I wasn't in my late 40s and I wasn't happily married, maybe I would attempt it.
Wait, so what is it called? I'm going to go look up.
Well, okay, the first title was Sex Mex, but you can find it on Amazon.com under the name Nympho Libre.
That sounds like a Johnny Legend movie, all right.
Oh, it is. And it includes
Veronica Kane from XPW was in it. Right?
That was when she used the name Barrett Moore.
How many stars? And what's the star rating on this?
I would give it a 5-star because I was in it for like 2 seconds.
Oh, okay, here it is. Nympho Libre.
Yes.
Wait.
Vix just ordered it. Oh, no.
And there's a scene of Johnny Legend.
Make sure I don't have one-click ordering on.
No, one-click ordering. Order duplicates. They need the money, I think.
Amazon has it in stock for $19.95.
We know
from Amazon sellers, there are 7 new copies available starting at $9.95 and 2 used copies starting at $45.
We know what the next price for the next trivia contest is going to be.
Oh,
the used copy of Nympho Libre.
Oh, Lord.
And then you could always go ahead and get Wrestling Women USA, where you and I did commentary on the film.
Which actually I do recommend to people. I thought our commentary was actually very good.
Yeah, I still need to watch your commentary.
Is there any nudity in that?
No, but it's a feature Peach's page.
Well, it also has a couple of great lady wrestlers. Rita
Martinez.
Well, Martinez, that's who it was. She was in there. She has that great line. She goes, "Do not ask me to throw a wrestling match. I wrestle straight up."
Yes.
Wait, Nympho Libre is not on IMDb.
Ooh, well, I think it might be in the adult IMDb.
No, it's in regular IMDb.
Unless it's a Sex Mex. I don't see it. Wait, let me do if I just do a title search. Okay, wait.
Do a title search for Vandal Drummond. Seriously.
Wait,
because it does show.
Wait,
Kurt's so proud of that. He can tell. He's so excited. He's so excited.
Vandal Drummond.
I'm still less of a whore than most wrestlers.
Oh, here we are.
Yes.
The villain in the novel Death Trap at La Puente by Dr. Hermister Barrington.
Which is true, which you can also get on Amazon.com, by the way.
Kurt, why'd they get rid of their website? Remember they had a website for that DVD?
No, I don't know why they did it.
Oh, your name? Oh, wait, the name of your character was Donkey Show Dominguez?
Yeah.
That's a Johnny Legend special again.
It is typical Johnny Legend. I was dressed up as Lucky Pierre, so I said, just say I'm Lucky Pierre, and he says, oh, no, that won't work because people are expecting an appearance by Donkey Show Dominguez. And I said, they are? And he goes, yeah, you don't realize how upset people can get sometimes if you don't deliver. And I'm going, okay, they're going to miss this 2-second role of a guy in a pink outfit whose name is Donkey Show Dominguez.
Is this on Netflix?
I wonder if it is.
Is it available for free on Netflix?
Well, I don't think it's for streaming, but let's see if they have
streaming.
DVD.
Streaming, no pun intended.
Oh, no.
Hey, what's this 2.5 out of 10 ratings are giving this?
No, Netflix does not have it, unfortunately.
Oh, my God. Internet Movie Database, this gets a 2.5. That was a 10.
Yeah, wait, does it say how many people have rated? Oh, 6 votes.
Oh,
it doesn't count that.
There's people out there jealous of Barrett Moore, who was a wonderful performer, by the way. Yeah. It includes a scene of Johnny Legend in a hot tub with all the porn stars.
I can't do that part.
No, it's okay because he's fully clothed. So
did you stay for the actual filming of the sex portion?
Yeah, for the
hardcore porn movie.
Yeah, it's a hardcore porn movie, and that's why it's amazing to buy it on Amazon.com.
Yeah, that's what I thought. I didn't think it's unsold like
it's probably been edited down.
No, it hasn't.
It is not.
Are you sure?
No, I'm positive. I guarantee you, if you buy one of the $9.95 ones, and if you get it and it's not edited down, I'll refund that $9.95.
I'm not buying a used one. Well, actually, wait, the used one.
No, for God's sake, don't buy a used one.
Okay, buy a new one, and I tell you, it's the hardcore stuff.
It's not on the Internet Adult Film Database. as you suggested that it might be, unless it says there.
Are you sure when they re-released it, Kurt, they didn't take a couple snips out of that and make it a hard R?
Nope. I actually have the DVD.
There is Sex Mex. It's there. Well, unless it's a different Sex Mex.
Sex Mex.
No, it is there. It is there. Here we go.
Yeah, the Sex Mex is a hardcore.
Yeah. Wow. 87 minutes.
Yeah. So, I think it's worth checking out. The girls worked hard, and yes, I was there for the scene of the girls' three-way, and it's the only time I've ever been on a porn shoot. So it was very interesting to somebody like me. But it's funny seeing these girls in these throes of passion, doing all these wild sex mechs, and then one of them accidentally coughing or something like that, and hold it, take, and then they're all just very casual and okay, resume activities.
It says that Adult Video News gave it a AAA rating. I don't know what that means. I don't know if that's 4 A's out of 5 or
well, it should mean it's very, very good.
F scale or whatever, but I'm guessing it's positive.
Original music by Brian M. Horowitz. Company that released it was Raunchy Talk,
which is another Johnny Legend sounding name.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm almost certain that he came up with that, and God bless him. Johnny Legend, he's contributed a lot to not just worldwide entertainment, but Southern California. We are proud to have him be one of our native sons. Johnny Legend, who is now located in Northern California, by the way.
Really?
Yes, I got a message from him on Facebook, and I have to write him back and see what the hell is going on with him, because we got to get him back to Southern California where he belongs.
Oh, speaking of Facebook, did I add Tom Hankins as a friend and then forget?
You may have Tom Hankins.
It's a good person to add, though.
Yes. Tom Hankins is the very first person who got me in a wrestling ring.
Wait, they suggested Lucha P. Wait, do you have another Facebook account?
Yes, I do. I just came up with it a few days ago. So add me as a friend there. Add Lucha Pierre.
Of course I went to Facebook as I'm talking to you.
Yes. This is the beauty of this podcast is you can surf the internet vicariously through the four of us.
Mickey Lurie James. Yeah, Keith's also asking me to add Mickey James too. I don't know if it's a real Mickey James or not.
Yeah, the Lucha Pierre I'm kind of using as kind of a vehicle for my blog and Slammin Stan. And by the way, we all know that Physico Nuclear is officially on Facebook.
So that means Fredo now has to be on Facebook.
Yes. And it is actually Physico who's on there because...
time, guys. We'll talk
it takes no time at all. It takes no time. Fredo, you have guided me through so many intricacies of utilizing the computer and the internet. I am almost incompetent at it, but even I managed to get signed up on Facebook, and it took me minutes.
Well, you don't update your website as much as I do, so.
Yeah, this is true, but this takes minutes, and it's bitchin'. It's so bitchin'. You don't even have to, you can just do all these silly posts that mean nothing, and people will know you're there.
And then when I'm wasting time doing that, when am I going to update my website?
You'll do it simultaneously, I tell you. And it is Physico who is actually doing the post because I put up the account for him, and I emailed him and said, send your messages to the masses so I don't have to do it for you. And that got him on fast.
Now, is he there as Jeff Larson or as Physico Nuclear?
He's Physico Nuclear.
He just said his name. Great. Good job, Bix.
Well, Jeff Larson is not Physico Nuclear.
Why?
Wait, who?
Two very different people. Yeah.
I think Lucha Wiki says otherwise.
No, they're wrong. Lucha Wiki is so wrong. His name is question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark.
I think we have to tell the Cubs fans to change that name.
Yeah,
so let me go look.
Or
I'm thinking of the Observer. Used to say because I remember an Observer write up about I think a match between the two of you. Yeah, it doesn't have his real name there, but it was like two Viva La Lucha writers faced off this weekend as Jeff Larson as Physico Nuclear wrestles Kurt Drummond as
It is interesting that Jeff Larson is a physicist, and so is Physico Nuclear, but I think that's the only similarities they have.
Okay.
That I know of. I think, you know what you could also get on a internet not an Internet Movie Database. On Amazon.com is another 1977 Johnny Legend movie called Young, Hot and Nasty Teenage Cruisers.
Jeez. Oh, God.
With Serena, the classic porn star. And now, you mentioned Tom Hankins a few minutes ago. There's an interesting piece of trivia about this movie. Was originally there was supposed to be a scene featuring the only Freddie Blassie. And no, Freddie Blassie was not going to be having sex in this movie. Freddie Blassie was going to be walking out of a nightclub, and he was going to be jumped by two people who he then proceeded to destroy. And one of those people was Tom Hankins. And Johnny Legend says that is one of the greatest regrets of that whole film is, I can't remember if the footage was either stolen or if it was accidentally destroyed, but apparently there's a great scene of Freddie Blassie trashing two guys outside a nightclub. But still, this is a very interesting old porn flick. The sex is very lame in it, but it's pretty creative. The other aspects of it are pretty creative. You get to see a very young Johnny Legend playing a DJ. Johnny Legend's father is in the flick, and if I remember right, I think his sister might have, again, a non-performing part. And, hey, just another recommendation. It doesn't hurt that it might give our friend Johnny Legend a little dough here and there, too. But we want to plug this. Amazon.com, I think you can find it. And, I didn't realize this. His friend Glenn Bray, who took a lot of photos of Los Angeles wrestling back in the day, is also featured as somebody called Boogier.
I didn't know that was an actual noun.
Boogier or Glenn Bray?
Boogier. I could see it being like an adjective, like Jimmy Valiant is Boogier to Johnny Valiant.
Or it could be a second verse that we
second generation. Cool. His father could have been Booger, and then he was Boogier.
And then Bastion Boogier.
Yeah, exactly. And then his son would be Boogieist.
Well, my friends, this has been...
Haven't we tortured the audience long enough?
Yeah, I know. That's what I was thinking. I got to tell you, this is one of our lengthier shows, but I got to tell you, I have had such fun doing this tonight.
Have I?
I have.
Awesome.
Yeah.
There's
and
one
you, Fredo?
Have I?
Fredo's cowering in the corner.
Fredo goes, no, I didn't have a good time at all. I'm a little tired.
Have you enjoyed yourself, Fredo?
You guys lost me at the porn talk. That was pretty much fun, bad.
We lost you because you started searching for some cooler porn that we were talking about.
Yeah, actually,
we were talking about the lame porn. You're trying to find some real art.
Trying to find the artsy stuff.
I think Fredo is still back dealing with the Destroyer stuff from about an hour ago. I think he's still working on pulling some of that up.
I just read something on Facebook, though, that I have to unleash on your brains before we go.
Okay.
Archie Comics is introducing its first openly gay character.
What? That's awesome.
It's not Jughead? I thought for sure it was Jughead.
No, it's a new character. It's Kevin Keller, their first openly gay character. He'll be welcomed into the town of Riverdale. The introduction of Kevin is about keeping the world of Archie Comics current and inclusive. Archie's hometown of Riverdale has always been a safe world for everyone. Just makes sense to have an openly gay character in Archie comic books, says Archie Comics co-CEO John Goldwater. Veronica number 202 features the full issue story, Isn't It Bromantic? That introduces Kevin, their first... Okay, how many times have they said openly gay character so far in this press release?
Well, I heard they're going to do it tastefully, and the character's name is going to be Kevin Cockhold.
What they'll wind up doing is they'll take Betty, Veronica, and Kevin, and they'll do a Sex in the City. It'll be like Sex in Riverdale.
There you go. It's going to be called Bye Bye Birdie.
Oh my God!
Orlando Jordan.
He defeats Jughead in a hamburger eating contest.
Or a hot dog eating contest.
Thank God it wasn't a hot dog. That could have been bad.
They'll be having a feud at Pink's Hot Dogs right here in Hollywood.
I wonder who reads Archie Comics nowadays. I mean, are little kids reading that?
That's what I'm thinking. I mean, the last time I'm not going to say that they were ever really relevant, but there was that little spate in the 1970s when there was the cartoon show and the little prefab rock group.
I remember that, the Archie and Jughead show.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, I remember being like, I think 12 years old and reading it just because Betty and Veronica were drawn just so sexually for that day and age. They were. I mean.
They printed on Comic Book Resources the page where we find out that Kevin is gay. So I have to read this. Jughead says, "Watch out for her, Kevin. She's a royal pain." And Kevin says, "She's not so bad. I'm just not interested in dating her."
That is way cool.
Jughead. Veronica's not going to let that stop her. Kevin, it's nothing against her. I'm gay. I guess I should just be up front. Jughead says, maybe, and then he starts thinking, and we have the big thought bubbles, or maybe I can have some fun seeing how long it takes Veronica to figure it out for herself. I don't think her to make a fool of me. And then Kevin says, speaking of explanations, what's the deal with those three? As they show Archie and Betty and Veronica together in their usual
and then Betty and Veronica start getting into a cat fight over Archie's love. And just as they're about to punch each other into oblivion, one of them says, "Hey, why are we fighting over some dumb guy?" And then they start making out with each other.
You know, you got a one-track mind tonight. You really?
Oh, yeah, blame it all on me. I wasn't the one who brought up sex, Mex. I was just the one who articulated on it.
And then Archie can pull a Tommy Dreamer and say, "I'm hardcore. I'll take it."
Oh, that would be great if they start beating Archie with a Singapore cane. That would be great. Please, sir, may I have another?
That would be great. Extreme Archie. That would be the new series.
Well, you do know there was a luchador in Mexico called Super Archie.
Yes. The most horrifying mask in the history of the
exactly.
It was so disturbing. It's so disturbing. I hope we can recreate it someday.
Or Super Pinocchio was pretty scary too.
That was disturbing. That one could have given me nightmares.
You know, there's a new comic book out right now called Pinocchio Vampire Killer.
Seriously?
Did Johnny Legend write it?
That's cool.
No, he didn't write it, but I have a couple of those not online, but iPhone apps that have that download comic books or whatever, and they have a bunch of free ones. And I haven't looked at it yet, but supposedly a vampire kills Geppetto. And think about it. He's a little wooden boy. His little hands could be spikes. Could be stakes.
Oh, Lord.
That somehow reminds me of, remember that Tracy Ullman HBO show, and one of her characters was an old gay guy?
Yes.
And he talked about owning a porn called Pincacchio.
So, ladies and gentlemen out there, this is Slammin' Stand number 31. We hope you have had an absolutely wonderful time. Alfredo Esparza, thank you as always for being
probably number 31 and 32, actually.
I know, we're going to split it up.
Yeah, this is true. This is multi-Slammin' Stand. Fredo Esparza is always our engineer and the conductor of LuchaWorld.com and SlamBamJam.com. Dan Farren, one of the main anchors behind Story Salon in Studio City, California. The Bixie Demon, the master of CageSeats.com. Did I get that correct?
No.
What is it?
CageSideSeats.com.
What is it?
CageSideSeats.com.
Awesome. Where you can find some of the most bitchin' interviews ever known to mankind, not just wrestling, to mankind.
That's not where the interviews are. No.
So, where are the interviews?
The interviews are loserleavestown.net.
That's right, .net. Don't forget the .net part.
Or DavidBix.com.
Okay.
Put it on one website.
So if you Google David Bix or the Bixie Demon, you are going to find these great works of art. Ladies and gentlemen, look forward very soon, coming to Southern California, Apartment House Wrestling Follies, started by Los Cuatros Rudos #2, right here, Alfredo Esparza, the Bixie Demon, shoot fighter Dan Farren, who loves Apartment House Wrestling more than the rest of us, and I, Vandal Drummond. So remember...
Just say goodbye, will you?
It hurts to say goodbye, damn it.
I want to hear about the Monsel's powder.
Exactly. Instead of saying goodbye, I'll just say, if you're walking down a street in Southern California on a dark, starry night, and you look into the sky and you see a bright light streaking across that skyline, it is not a shooting star. No. It is a heavenly handful of Monsel's
powder.
God bless you, my baby. See you in 2 weeks.